despite everything I achieved, despite everything I worked hard for in defence, it really has been a real eye-opener to me that I can actually support the people that have made that same commitment to their country.
Axons Unleashed.
G'day ladies and gents, Robbie Turner's my name. Welcome to another cracking episode of Axons Unleashed. Now I say cracking episode every time, but I know for a fact, Rhino, that this is going to be one of the best ever.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to do things slightly differently. If you're watching on whatever platform it is, you can see we've got a bit of a rap sheet here. Your rap sheet reads longer than mine when I first bloody got out, quite frankly, which is really good. And we've had a few SOCOM guys here. They've all told, their own individual stories, but there's a similar sort of thread there. But we've got someone joining us here on the podcast that has never occurred before. And we'll talk about tip of the spear. We want to talk about the most of the general population of the whole world going, that'll be the fucking best job in the world. We got Dr. Tim Nelson joining us. Tim, welcome to Axons Unleashed, mate.
Thanks, Robbie. Good to be Rhino, good to be here, mate.
Yeah. Really looking forward to telling your story. And let's just do a bottom line up front. You've now transitioned and you're in the veteran space helping people put together DVA claims. So whilst we're going to go back to the start, just give us a bit of an idea, what's that like now after your years of service, but the tangibility and the just overall satisfaction you get, helping veterans doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. I love it. To be completely frank with you, my career, as you said, it reads well, and we'll get to that. But I really find that I've got more enjoyment now in my life in doing what I'm doing. I really joined the Defence Force because I thought it was the right thing to do, to look after your country. Look after those who provide so much to your life. And really what I found is, despite all that, despite everything I achieved, despite everything I worked hard for in defence, it really has been a real eye-opener to me that I can actually support the people that have made that same commitment to their country.
Yeah, wow. It's the same with us, Ryan. How good is it putting plans together, allowing people to have that realisation that they can actually secure their financial future and capitalise on all the sacrifice and the deployment money and whatever that might look like, and any DVA or com super stuff that may or may not come their way, and actually put it to good use.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you just know when you're talking to people that they are, at the end of the day, using our services, will have a roof over their head when their service is done.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, there'll be somewhere to go for them where they're safe and familiar and just content to transition out.
Yeah, and I feel that too. Sorry, Robbie, is that they're the two essentials, right? Is really having somewhere, having someone, being to be able to enjoy it, to live your best life.
Yeah.
And, a part of that also comes in having good health.
Yeah.
Without your good health, you've got terrible quality of life.
Yes.
Without having a family, a loving environment, same again. So I see the similarities between what you guys are doing, which hats off to, by the way, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And what we're trying to achieve for veterans in the health space.
Yeah, and I'll go one step further from a monetary point of view. If someone's worrying about money, that's going to decay their health. And we've all heard the saying that money doesn't make you happy. But I'm sure we've all felt over the years that a lack of money will make you unhappy very quickly.
Sure.
You can have the best family life and the most supportive, relationships with those people around you, and be, got a roof over your head. But if there is not enough money left at the end of the month, you're going to become unhappy very quickly. So you've also got to be taking those the whole enrichment journey along the way there to make sure that all those facets. I'm absolutely convinced. Roof over your, so yes. Something to look forward to, something to do, and someone to love, and also have a financial backing around you. If you got those things all sort of wrapped up, the likelihood of you spiralling down into the depths of where we don't want people to go is much more reduced.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the other element to add there too is that when we're in defence, all those sacrifices we make, a lot of time it's not just, your lifestyle, it's also your ability to financially earn. So you definitely, I feel, you definitely take a remuneration hit by the time in defence. So, yeah, as I said, it's fantastic that you're providing that opportunity for defence members.
Yeah, no one ever joins the military to get rich, but there is other elements of enrichment that we absolutely get from it. All right, awesome. I just wanted to put that on the table straight up. Don't bloody stop listening to this podcast, ladies and gents, because if you are serving, guess what? You're going to become a veteran one day. It's not if, it's when. We all know that, as well as us, 8 other veterans that work here. And certainly if you've already transitioned and you're looking for some guidance and support and whatever else, then, I'm looking forward to people getting in touch with you, Tim, afterwards. Back to the start, though, and this is where it all sort of, begins when I said that we haven't had someone of your background and your expertise in sitting in the chair before. You grew up in Sydney's Northern Beaches. And please excuse my shitty reading, by the way. See, that I just gave myself permission to fuck a whole lot of stuff up. Thank you. You grew up in Sydney's Northern Beaches, where you spent your days surfing and dreaming of becoming a Royal Flying Doctor. Love that. Your passion for military aviation, however, was ignited after witnessing some F-18 Hornets flying through the Hunter Valley.
Yes.
Take us back there. When was that, and what was the actual feeling like?
I think I was 10 years old at the time. We had a little small farmhouse up in an area called Broadboy, which is in the Hunter Valley, beautiful wine region.
Yeah,
Right.
nice.
There was nothing to do out there. It was a 7-acre property in and amongst hundreds of thousands of acres of, I don't know, nothing. Not even cattle, sheep. There was nothing going. I don't even know.
There's
how many
wineries. That's it.
Great. Plenty of great.
There's wineries and drunk tourists in the back of buses.
I couldn't appreciate it back then. But anyway, yeah, so I had this, I remember it vividly. I had this piece of shit Honda 50cc motorbike.
Yep.
That broke down without fail 3-4 times a day. And I used to spend my whole day actually trying to fix the thing more than I ended up riding the thing.
Fun fact, I used to have one of them when I was a kid as well.
So you'd appreciate it. And then, so I just remember, I vividly remember I'm sitting there trying to kickstart the thing and kicking the bike, and it fell over. And then I heard this just almighty noise above me. I'm like, what is that? And then looked up and I saw, the bottom aspect, I guess, of a Hornet as it was flying past. And that was it. That was it for me. It was just that moment. I got pins and needles all over.
Yeah.
And I made that commitment to myself that's what I want to do. That's where I want to be.
One day. What year was that?
Would have been...
So 10 years old?
Yeah, it would have been 88, 89.
Okay. Had Top Gun come about that time, wasn't it really? Would have been?
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't remember seeing Top Gun at that stage.
Sure.
But
if you're living on a 7-acre property in the middle of fucking nowhere, you ain't going to the movies every weekend.
No. Well,
Kicking a motorbike full time.
That's right. There was no TV at all. There was, I don't know if you remember, Greatest American Hero. I don't know if you ever remember that TV show, but that was the only thing we ever got. And that was intermittent. But that's how we spent our holidays. That's one of my key takeaways, that piece of shit motorbike.
Yeah.
And then seeing the Hornet fly over.
Well, didn't it bloody progress from there? So after initially starting a mechanical engineering cadetship, after being unable to secure a carpentry apprenticeship, you joined the RAF in 1999. Shit, I was a recruit instructor at Kapuka then.
I was much younger.
Probably 5. Yeah. You underwent officer training, combat survival, aircrew training at East Sale and Pierce, of course, before moving to F111 ops in Amberley. So you flying the pig first.
Yeah, straight up.
Didn't start small.
Well, we did a bit of Pierce, so we did a bit of lead-in fighter training, and that was on the Hawk at the time.
Yes, yeah.
And then straight on to the F111 2002. I remember it well.
Yeah. As I spoke to you during the initial bit there, I did my JTAC course back in the day, and then ended up running the capability. And they put us in the back of a Hawk to have an understanding doing Type 1 low-level CAS missions. Half the course on the ground, the other half the course was waiting to go and do these things. And whilst the Hawk has got nothing on the aircraft you eventually flew, I'd only ever done a bit of TAC flying in the back of C-130s before, doing some jumps and a bit of helicopter ops, whatever else, and your stomach moves about this far. Fuck me, I did 90 minutes doing low-level Type 1 CAS, and I was spewing my ring gear up for that whole 90 minutes. I still remember it really well. I hated it, but it was one of the best things I've ever done. Talk to me about the G-force training you do when you start to go through aviation training and stuff. What have you got a bit of a story from a journey that you went on there, and how did you eventually get over it? And then pulling max G's, doing a bunch of other stuff, which I'll get to soon.
Well, I guess I was pretty fortunate about that, because the F111 back in the day, we were only allowed to pull 4G. I think it was a 6.5 G aircraft at the time, but we'd only ever fly it to 4G. So, 4 times your natural weight, 4 times the acceleration due to gravity.
Yep.
Because I had that gradual build on, it actually didn't seem like a big thing at that time. It wasn't until later in my career that I went on to other aircraft that really the stories come out about.
Yeah.
Really high Gs.
Yeah. I saw a documentary on Amazon and Netflix recently about the Blue Angels, and the training they've got to go through. It's like a bit of a behind the scenes documentary there. And I tell you what, it's the blackout or the grey out sort of comes on, and it's pretty scary, but it must be super exhilarating as well.
Yeah. It's as I said, like later on when I centrifuge training, when I went over to the States, which we'll get to later on, I suppose. That's when it really hits you. But 4G with a G suit, really, I don't really have any memories of any greying out, blacking out. You'd have to be doing things very wrong, I think, to be blacking out at 4G.
Yeah, and as you and I were just saying before, that is more likely than not that I was doing some dry JTAC training when you were at the F111s out the back of Amberley there over the years. So that funny.
Yeah, it was, and I really enjoyed those days. They were great. It was one of those things that I always enjoyed when I was flying. Just a tactical challenge of what we were doing, what we were training for, what we were working up for. But it was at next level when we had that interoperability with the Army or with the Navy, and actually talking and interacting and helping each other achieve a mission. It was and I guess it's transferable to today, right? It feels like all of us coming together to work for a common goal. When you had that opportunity, when you're only in your own force, sometimes it felt like you were just working alone. But when you brought it into that joint space, it was a completely different world for me.
Yeah, it's the same as us. Like our blood runs purple. Yeah. Army, Navy, Air Force, it doesn't matter. And I was in my own little SOCOM silo. So it's like a silo within a silo sort of thing. And I'm sure you feel the same, Ryan, is that because we speak to so many people from all corps, all ranks, all backgrounds, married couples, gay couples, divorcees, single people, like you name it. I feel like I know more about the military now than what I ever did when I was in.
I agree. Yeah, me too.
Because people are telling, like, what's going on at work? And they're like, oh, well, this and this. And I'm like, fuck, I had no idea. And as it evolves and everything. So, speaking of evolution, let's keep this going. So you honed your skills as a strike aircraft operations and completed the fighter combat instructor course, the Australian equivalent to the US Navy Top Gun course. And then in 2006, you become the fighter combat instructor for both RAF 1 and 6 squadrons and served as a mission commander on multiple large force employment exercises, including Red Flag on 2 occasions. We'll come back to Red Flag in a second, but I would say 99.9% of people that are listening to this podcast have heard of and seen the Top Gun movies. Just give us a bit of an insight as far as, how does that rate? What was it like? What was the training like? Did you scrape through? Did you smash it? Give us an insight.
Well, I ducks the course, but I think that was more good luck, good fortune than achievement. But anyway, what have we got here?
I just ducks the JTAC course. I didn't know you were going to say that.
2 sheds.
Go on, Robbie. Mate, didn't we have that conversation? We don't like it. We don't like talking about our achievements.
That ain't 2 sheds. That's like the padlock to the shed. Jesus.
Yeah, no. Anyway. Top Gun Australian FCI course was next level. It really was. The whole idea of the course back then, it was all about pushing you to your limits, but being able to recognise your limits and also be an instructor and push the students that you had on the course as well without breaking them.
So you were being assessed as an instructor and then the student, yes.
Yep. Yeah. It was sort of both. It was just instructing your own capabilities, but a lot of it was also, assessing your ability to be an instructor. And the missions were so intense, the hours were so long, the exercises we did were just something next level. It was the highest caliber Air Force exercises we ever did.
Yeah.
And it was during those stages that the instructors that were instructing us would be sitting there pushing us to our limits and trying to make sure, as I said, that we weren't breaking our students.
Yeah.
And really it was that whole large force employment that I really enjoyed, which is about getting as many assets airborne as possible, trying to make the mission as big as possible and as difficult as possible, and working a solution for that. The thing I really enjoyed, though, was that some of the missions were never going to be achievable. And that was intentional.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And it was also being able to recognise, where do we pull the pin on this? Where do we say enough is enough? And we can't do this, and go back to the mission directors or go back to our leaders and say, what you're asking us to do is not possible.
Until Tom jumps in and shows everyone.
Does it himself?
Right, you fucking tell me it can't be done.
I feel like I've heard this story before.
Yes, call sign entering the range. Sir, the range is not open. It fucking is now. Let's go.
Yeah, well, Hollywood isn't reality.
Yeah. No, that's good. Doing those high-level missions and literally pushing the boundaries is what it's all about. But that's what an exercise is there for.
Completely.
You can put your hand up during an exercise and you'll come and get taken away. But, it's no good not knowing what your boundaries are. And this is why the SOCOM training, for instance, and the selection is so hard. You put your hand up there and go home. You put your hand up when you're out there, when you're out there doing it for real, you become a liability for everyone. So you don't. So it's the whole reason why exercise should always be so much harder than the real thing.
Completely. But also having that awareness, I think, is huge.
Yes.
And the courage to go and say, this can't be done. Let's reassess it. Let's reevaluate. Let's break this down into pieces, as opposed to trying to achieve everything in one mission.
Yeah. Did you do multiple mission sets within one mission? So you're doing like the large formation stuff, doing some strike shit. There's a troops in contact. You pair go over there and go and do some low level CAS sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a totally different mindset and ad hoc mission stuff.
Exactly.
Training, yeah.
And that was the exciting stuff.
Yeah, cool.
To be honest, because. You can sit there, you can plan it out. We spend hours planning these missions.
Yep.
We spend hours briefing them. But funnily enough, and not a lot of it is actually about what we're going to do, but rather how we're going to re-roll to do other things.
If something occurs.
What's the redundancy?
Yep.
What could go wrong here? Doing that analysis. And I guess it's it's transferable, right, to what we do today, particularly for you guys. That, what if plan A doesn't work? We've got to have a plan B and then a plan C and a plan D.
Yep.
And that really was the interesting stuff, is that when all of a sudden you're re-rolled from doing a primary mission because there's something more important. There's an aircraft down, something like that, you have to provide cover. There's JTACs in close support and CAS that need immediate cover.
Yeah.
That was the really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's good, mate. It's good to hear. I'm not surprised that, of course, that the pinnacle of aircrew training in Australia is as complex and dynamic and challenging as that. It's got to be right. When you put that patch on, when you put that beret on, people know you've been put through the ringer and you got through.
It is, and but going back to what you were talking about before, is that the thing that still gives you goosebumps is when you hear on the radio that one of your mates is in trouble. And that's, everything the priority then becomes about how can we do this to help our mate out, to minimise the collateral damage, to get them home safely.
Did you have any close calls with anything?
Yeah, a few air-to-air, really close calls.
Yep.
Is the one that comes to mind.
And is that similar to what we see on the movies? A serious question, like from a jet wash blackout sort of thing? Like, does that sort of stuff occur? Is that what you're talking about, or just aircraft a bit too close?
Yeah, aircraft a bit too close.
Yeah.
Really high closing velocities. That you shake it off, but realise that if that actually happened, we wouldn't be here anymore. So. Obviously everybody deals with that a bit differently. There's a couple of instances I remember when it was actually almost like I shouldn't laugh, but it was almost like a Top Gun scene with Iceman, when he was at Iceman. Who was the one where he came back and he couldn't land because he had a close call? Do you remember? Who was that in that primary movie?
Cougar.
Was it Cougar?
Cougar.
Yeah, it was Cougar.
Cougar. Come back to me, Cougar.
Yeah. It was like one of those.
Yeah.
So maybe the movie is more reflective of real life than we actually give it credit for. But there was a few of those instances that I had.
And Tim, how long were you in the F111 for? How many years?
It started in 2002, and then I went to the USAF in 2000.
You can read it right there if you like.
So 5
We're up
years.
to that.
5 years
There we
ago.
go.
5
Look at
years I
that.
did in the end.
Yeah. So
There you go, Ryan. Ryan's a much better reader than me. He can read that bit.
They only show pictures in Tello School, don't they?
Yeah.
They actually do reading or not?
That's right. I just look at it and go, oh, yeah, cool.
But how good is you about to ask the very next thing we're up to?
Yeah.
You go.
So,
Great.
it's got here, 800 hours in the pig across that time.
Yeah, it was good fun. I got so many good memories of flying the old girl.
Yeah. It's my favourite aircraft.
Is it?
Yeah.
Just
Love it.
whilst we're here then, before we sort of move on, because I know you did graduate into other aircraft as well. What was that like when you sort of the balloon went up? They're like, right, we're going to retire this thing. It's done now. Sort of, yeah.
Well, I was actually pretty fortunate because I had a bit of a soft transition in the sense that we started to wind down the F111, and that's the time that I did the USAF exchange. So I really wasn't there for it.
Right.
My last memories actually of the F111 was we were ramping the capability up. So we got a big missile called AGM-142, which was a 3,000 pounder. You flew it actually from the aircraft, so you launch it from about 100 kilometres away, and then you flew the thing all the way into the target with a camera right on the nose of the aircraft. That was cool. So that was my last memory really of the F111 before I transferred across.
Yeah, okay, so you weren't actually here for the...
No.
setting the ships on.
I flew back into Australia as they were doing the Finney flight, I think, and I did the celebration and saw the last flight of the F111.
Yeah. And how similar when you started to transition in the F-15 Eagle stuff over in US? Is an aircraft an aircraft an aircraft?
Nah.
Right, I didn't think so.
No, I mean, the mindset's still there. Like,
course.
obviously, the F-111 really strong strike aircraft, and that's what we concentrated on. We concentrated on avoiding the air-to-air, avoiding the air-to-ground missiles that were coming at us. But our primary role was to put bombs on targets.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was a whole new mindset. As you went over to the Strike Eagle, it was all about being in a more offensive weapon. Our best form of defence is offence, right?
Yeah.
So learning that piece. Obviously, the strike stuff was really common, but and the CAS stuff, interoperability was all the same. But really, it was that air-to-air piece that was a bit different.
Did you love that they were over there? And I know the SOCOM guy was going over there and loved doing exchanges because they just got full mission focus.
It's unreal.
Like
it was unreal.
Everything is about the mission focus.
It was incredible. There's just so many toys over there. There's so many assets. There's always something on the go over there. And then we sort of went in at a time too when a lot of doors were opening in regards to classification. So it really was an opportune time for me sort of to go over there.
Yeah. Back to the red flag stuff. I did 4 or 5 red flags as the Afghan airland integration stuff was sort of going off. We were able to integrate some more, ground ops as opposed to all the large scale stuff there. So I was the contingent commander for a platoon sized group of 30 commandos that spent 19 days in Vegas.
How cool.
So it was like day yeah,
Jesus.
That's one way to describe it. So like day
your hands full.
day on, day off there. So, but yeah, buddy,
Vegas has never been the same.
yeah, I left a fair bit of my soul back there over that period. Like being there for a week's cool, being there for 2 weeks is cool, but fuck 19 days.
Yeah, it's a long.
It was a long time.
Even 2 weeks is a long time in Vegas. But I have fond memories of that place. Like that was
at Nellis.
Probably that was. The thing that I keep reflecting on my biggest achievement, and I think that was probably it. And it was during that 2006 FCI course, we went over and did exercise red flag, and I got pretty well thrown in front of the group. It's like you're going to be the mission commander for this mission, and the size of those missions.
Yeah.
They are just billions of dollars of assets in the air.
All
thousands.
different types of assets.
Oh yeah. The works. It's,
and to be in those huge auditoriums and literally be standing there in front of like 600-700 people and all their awesome, amazing, well-credentialed professional eyeballs are staring right at you.
That's right.
It's
tap dance
character building.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But the mission went well. We all survived, so it was good.
Returning to Australia in 2010, you become the first Australian trained student on the RAF's new F-18 Foxtrot model, which is pretty cool. Again, earning your FCI qualification at one squadron. And then you got promoted to squadron leader and then also went across to start doing some of the EA stuff with the Growlers.
Yeah,
that would have been cool as well.
That was a cool time. That
was a real evolutionary time for us, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it really was. And it was one of those times too where, I think the Super Hornet got a bit of bad press because we didn't know its capabilities and because we always were, I guess, getting a bit political here, but we were always going to transition to get the JSF, and this thing was only ever supposed to be a bridging aircraft. Yep. I was fortunate in that time that I spent in the US Air Force, I was aware of the capability of what the Super Hornet can do, and that thing is it is still a weapon.
Yeah.
It is an incredible jet, and to have I guess the luxury and the opportunity to fly F-111. Strike Eagle and Super Hornet. I was very blessed.
Did you feel like you closed the loop from that day down at Hunter Valley?
Yeah.
Let's not forget about that.
I definitely did. I walked away with a smile on my face, and unfortunately, it was a medical condition that resulted in me not flying anymore.
Yeah.
But the transition to the Growler was transition office was fantastic for me too, because I saw that as an opportunity now to go right. Now all these skills, all these I guess assets, the abilities that I have, I can now project that to ensuring we get the best equipment, we train our crews the best way possible, such that those opportunities that I've had and the defence that we can provide and the security we can provide for our country can be handed over to the next generation.
I found it really interesting knowing the capability a little bit of what the F-18 writ large can do, classic or Super Hornet. And then to have that platform also with a really high-level electronic attack stuff, which is the Growler. There's open source reporting as far as that goes.
Yeah.
I just found it interesting that such a high performance plane had also such a high performance EA capability. So then the loiter time wasn't that long. Types of missions that you were flying would have been much more stable as opposed to much more dynamic. So yeah, just take us through. What were your thoughts when you saw the EA platform on such a high performance aircraft?
It made sense to me.
Yeah, good.
Especially, we go back, I think, talking about exercise red flag. One of the big limitations we really had on exercise red flag is we'd go out there and we'd see what the prior aircraft was the Prowler, so the EA6G.
Yep.
That thing was imperative to every mission that we really did, and it had some significant limitations. And all of those really were solved by putting it on a fast jet platform, which effectively is what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a real step forward. I discovered anyway, as far as that goes. You mentioned about it was at this time you had a medical condition, and you've written here on the form, I hope you know, I'm saying type 1 diabetes. Tell us about when was that discovered? What was that conversation like? How did that make you feel? Where did your head and your heart go? This is going to be the real transition bit into the amazing work you're doing now, Doctor.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, I mean, I still get quite emotional about it, to be honest.
Right, yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
It was just, I guess, that realisation that everything you thought, you planned, you hoped for, all your dreams were sort of overnight just taken from you.
Yeah, wow.
The diagnosis came about. It was actually the story of how I was diagnosed was actually quite funny, and that I guess it ignited a passion in me to be a doctor as well and a medical officer in the Air Force, because at the time it was picked up by a nurse, because we used to have to do annual aircrew medicals, and they do random blood tests. So anyway, it was just the barrage of blood tests, and it came back. So your blood sugars are a bit high. You're feeling unwell. I've had the flu about a week ago, but I'm all right. Okay, we'll just repeat that in a couple of weeks' time. So at the time, I was in the Growler transition team. We were about to go to the US to do some work with the US Navy on capability and planning of what we were going to do with our jets. And the advice I got was, you're fine to go over to the States. Just make sure you don't eat any sugar when you're over there. Which I thought wasn't sound advice.
You and I are scoffing. That's impossible. You go have a Caesar salad or fucking cereal, it's got sugar in it.
Bag of sugar on it.
In a Cheerios. Yeah. Anyway, so okay. But if you get in trouble over there, if you're seeing any of these symptoms, make sure you're getting yourself checked into the hospital. So, but at that stage, I wasn't even processing that I had diabetes.
No.
But I got over there and I started getting brain fog. And it was really difficult for me, because all of a sudden my confidence, everything had just gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was, didn't know what was going on. And then eventually I came back from the States without eating any sugar. And it was, got checked back in with the nurse again, and they went to do another test on me, and they said, the nurse actually was one that broke the diagnosis to me. She said, I'm not going to do this test because you'll end up in diabetic ketoacidosis if I give you that much sugar. So, it was the nurse that broke the news. And then, the diagnosis came from there, and things really just sort of unfolded from that point. But it was more that, that realisation, I guess, for me that, hey, things are shit. This is not where, I envisioned my life going. This is not what I anticipated. But you know what? We've got to move on. That's presented a challenge, and now we now need to think, right, what's that plan B?
And what a plan B it is. Like we've literally what are we up to? Episode 80 or so of this now. Every veteran's got their own transition plan, and I'd probably say a lot of veterans have got out and done something sideways or less than what they were doing in the military. Noting where you were, people can't believe this. We're about to take a step up, I reckon. So in 2013, you transitioned to medical officer specialisation after receiving a graduate medical scheme sponsorship and a position at Griffith University in medicine on the Gold Coast. Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be here.
Completed 2 years of clinical training at the Tweed Hospital, followed by an internship as a medical doctor. As you were going through that stuff, like to have the intellect, to have the commitment, to have the skills to be able to come, to do your stuff from a pilot perspective, and now you're putting yourself in the top pinnacle from a medical perspective. Like, it's two pretty decent careers.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it took me back to that initial childhood dream, right? The Royal Flying Doctor Service. And it was that realisation. True. But I think military life sort of prepared me for that. Is that, those things about the struggles, the self-doubt, all that sort of thing, and we overcome all those during our time in defence.
Yeah.
And it was that realisation. So, why not?
why can't we achieve this? Why can't I do this? So stop the negative thought and just have a crack at it.
And bringing you all the way back to the start of a learning curve again, obviously.
That was hard.
Yeah,
that was hard. But I'll be honest with you. Like it was, the science behind it all, the medicine behind it all was difficult. But the ability to interact with people, to understand people, that's a lot. There's a big part of that in being a doctor. The knowledge and the knowledge of medicine and medications and disease is one thing, but that's learnable skills. Like
That's the science part of it.
it is. Yeah,
The
yeah.
art.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the art really is being able to understand people, and so that aspect I actually found quite easy.
Yep.
It was like you said, just gaining that science, the knowledge, the background.
Yeah.
But that's rote learning effectively, right?
Generally, if you get a blood test result back, you turn to page 63 of Table B, and then that's where the answer's found. I'm being very facetious, I know, but there is a lot of science, of course, that goes into it, and certainly your logbooks and your manuals when you were flying the aircraft are very scientific as well.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah. But I guess the thing I found difficult with it all is that you get to a stage in medicine where you pare it back, like being from an engineering background and a broken Honda 50cc motorbike. It's like, how does this thing actually work?
Yeah.
And the thing I actually found difficult in medicine is you get to a stage and it's like, right, here's the disease. Okay, well, what came before that?
Yep.
It's like, well, this.
Let's go upstream.
The Axon. Well, how does the brain work? How does that? So you'd always be asking the questions. You got to a point where it's like, you know what? We don't actually know.
Yeah.
So that was more the thing that I found difficult, is that there's a lot of assumptions in medicine based on not really first principles, because we don't know the genesis of a lot of stuff.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Then you returned to the RAF in 2020, and you were seconded to a medical centre on the Gold Coast to expedite your GP training. That's pretty cool. However, as your diabetes progressed, it became clear you might not be able to deploy anymore. And then, of course, and this is a bit that I found a little bit emotional myself, even though the RAF and your squadron/chain of command were really supportive of you, Doctor, it was ultimately determined that you were not fit for service. And February 2nd, 2022 is when you too had the opportunity to hand back your ID card.
Yeah.
Take us through that.
Yeah, I have not a bad word to say about my chain of command and the way I was treated.
I love hearing that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I really got a soft transition because through this whole process, really, I got a new qualification and something that I could transfer to my new life. So I was very fortunate. I was still passionate though. Like when I transferred across, I still had these great ideas that I wanted to come back and be an aviation medical officer. When I was talking to the Air Force and when this idea was planted about me being a medical officer, it was a bit of it came through the fact that I saw a lot of medical officers when I was flying that really didn't understand what we did. And they try and set up this pathway of doing aviation medicine. They do it better in the US. The US Air Force, the way they do it with a flight surgeon is they have docs actually embedded in the squadron and they go flying.
Yep.
By the way, some of those docs are some of the best weapon system officers I've ever seen. Don't tell the American wizzos that. But they would sit, and they understand the environment.
Yeah.
But then you'd come back to the Australian medical system, and at stages it felt like a lot of the doctors thought success for them was stopping somebody flying. So without understanding the environment. So I was like, well, what'd be great is if I could actually go use that experience, that knowledge that I have of a fast jet cockpit and be a medical officer for the Air Force and be able to fuse those two. Like, I thought, what a great capability. So fast forwarding to your question then is that the transition then, it became apparent that one, I couldn't fly because I had diabetes. The other thing that I really enjoyed doing was, wanting to go on ops, being able to do aeromedical evacuation work, or helping guys and girls actually on the ground. That's really what I wanted to do. And it became apparent after we did one exercise that was never going to happen for me.
Is there a specific event that occurred which triggered that?
Yeah, it was a realisation that I was pretty well abusing my body, and that what I had to do to be able to function, I had to carry my blood sugars really high.
Right.
And then in doing that, there's long-term consequences of doing that.
Yeah.
Because if I maintain my blood sugars in the area that I needed to, like normal blood sugars, I'd end up going low.
Yeah.
And then obviously the risk there is loss of consciousness, etc. So it became apparent that, I'm not going to be able to deploy. I'm not going to be able to live my dream as a medical officer. And I'm pretty well stuck doing GP duties on base, and albeit that at a reduced sort of capability based on what I was able to do. So,
Yeah, well, it was really difficult. But as I said, I don't have a bad word to say about Chain of Command because they gave me every opportunity. Even after they said, you can't do this, you're not deployable, we can't utilise you here. We could make something for you. You could do this job on base. So they really bent over backwards to try and accommodate me, which I'm very thankful for.
So good.
Yeah. I guess I'm thankful though too. Also that they made that realisation that wasn't for me. Like that wouldn't fulfil me. I wouldn't be living my best life if I was there.
I was just about to say, it's whilst as shitty as that might have been, grateful but disappointing.
Yeah.
You needed that to occur to allow you to sort of cut ties with that organisation and now sort of move on to something different.
It was. Yeah.
We've
We have a lot of us have done that, and firsthand, Robbie, how difficult that is.
Yeah. So then, working part time as a GP, you began seeing veterans and found a strong rapport with them. Same with us. You know, my business coach back in 2018, he goes, mate, I think you should turn your back on 25 million Australians and just focus on working with the Defence Force. He goes, you talk differently, you walk differently, you act differently, and you want to have the rapport with those people. So that definitely changed things for us as well. And you realise many veterans struggling to qualify for treatment due to the complexity of the DVA claim system and the lack of medical practitioners willing to complete the DVA medical assessments, the pages and pages and pages, or mine was anyway. And then you started doing these assessments and writing the reports of veterans, which you found fulfilling.
Yeah,
Talk us about that.
Yeah, it really, the journey found me, really, as opposed to me finding it. But it was, as you said, I was practicing, because of my condition and my mental health, I actually couldn't work full time as a GP.
Just sidebar. Did you go through the DVA process as well?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So the veterans sort of found me just in the part-time work, and then the veteran network spreads, and before you know it, it's like all my books are full with veterans.
Yeah.
And then I remember vividly again that there was one poor veteran, and she was going through a really rough time, and unfortunately she didn't have that luxury that you had of a doctor who was actually willing to complete the reports for her. So along the way, I was seeing these veterans, they'd bring a few reports. I'd be like, what is all this about? And I started investigating more and more into it. And then I went through it myself.
Yeah.
So, as a doc who's actually seen medical assessments being done before, to go through it yourself personally and go, how many different legislations, how many different reports, what actually are they asking? There's all these it made no sense, any of these reports. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get onto this and understand them well.
Yeah.
And it really evolved through there. So, even me personally, the reason my claims could not progress in a lot of time was obviously inherent delays in DVA, which is, I guess understandable.
Delays is understandable, but it's the changing of the goalposts, fill that form out, same as this form. No, that's not tick box her correctly. Like that's the mechanics of it. Which my experience anyway has frustrated so many people. Delays are understandable.
Completely agree. But and those, I guess, departmental delays and shifting of goalposts are there. But what I realise is that external to DVA, veterans couldn't get reports done. And the ones that they did get done, they didn't get to the standard they wanted, so they'd end up with a negative result. Yep. So as I said, that was my, it was a bit personal for me to understand, to have that exposure to understand what needed to be done. But it really just grew from there. And from there it became apparent that, the one thing that's stopping all these reports, in addition to, I guess the one thing we can control with all these claims is actually giving veterans to the ability to have access to people who can do these correctly, do them efficiently, in support of getting the outcome that they rightly deserve.
Yeah, Tim, I think it's such an incredibly, looking back at your career and not necessarily wanting to discharge, but going through the medical process and the DVA claim process, it's so incredibly powerful that you can provide that experience to the people that you talk to. And it's something that we do here as well. In terms of the property space, will be a little bit different. Most of the people here at Axon have gone through the Axon journey. So we know that when we're talking to clients exactly how they're feeling, the uncertainty, is it right for me, all of that sort of stuff. And I'm sure multiplied by 10, the people that you're speaking to, the veterans are feeling the same. Yeah,
I think it's one of those things, right? Like if you've lived it, if you've breathed it, you inherently just understand it.
Yep.
So
I'll reflect on my own journey when I was seeing a doctor here in the Gold Coast for quite a while about my bunk shoulder, and then it got to a point I'm like, all right, cool, now I'm going to submit this from a DVA perspective, even though he'd seen the history and seen the deterioration and seen the multiple MRIs over 3 or 4 years. When I waved a DVA thing in front of him, I'm like, and then based on what you know about what I did in the military, I'm now asking you to apportion what you think was the prospective liability for DVA. He froze.
Wouldn't touch
He's
it.
like, mate, I've got no idea, because as far as I know, you sort of heard this after you got out. And I was like, I was angry, but I also had an enlightenment. I went, I'm talking to the wrong doctor. I literally just jumped on DVA forums. I'm like, I need to speak to someone who's actually got it. So then I drove all the way up to, a suburb in Brisbane and sat there, and I was in front of a DVA-friendly doctor, as I'll just characterise it, someone who knew the system.
Understood.
I didn't know you back then.
Yes.
So in the year BT before Tim. And then he was there. He's like, mate, just based on what I can see of your record of service and based on what I know the things you would have gone through, absolutely, boom, 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 attributed all of it to it. So I guess the main message there is that, ladies and gents, is that do a little bit of research, find someone who does have an understanding of what your particular service life would have been like, and therefore the likelihood of you, of DVA, having to claim some sort of responsibility made a massive difference.
Yeah, Shaq.
So-
And I think, obviously I'm lucky I have that experience. But my team, I've got a team of 8 doctors now. We've got ex-serving doctors within the team. But also a lot of the time that I spend is actually educating the doctors on what the environment is like, what exposures you see in defence.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate too, I guess, in a lot of the staff that we have in our team also have a veteran in their family or an active serving member in their family. So they understand, they get it. They get it.
So let's do the last little paragraph here. Thanks for putting up with my shitty reading, ladies and gents. After completing your fellowship training as a GP in 2022, together with a group of trusted GPs, Dr. Nelson co-founded Front Foot Health, an entity which is dedicated to improving the lives of veterans. Your ethos is that veterans who have sacrificed greatly for your country deserve to prioritise their needs and those of their families. Access to quality healthcare is a key component of living a good life, and Front Foot Health aims to help veterans achieve this. I think it's a fucking no-brainer. If I was a veteran now, or someone who's going to, like I said, not if you get out, it's when you get out, I'd be definitely looking to find someone like you, your organisation, Front Foot Health, who just gets what it is that you're trying to put forward. I didn't even use an advocate. I tried using an advocate, free service. I'm like, hey, this is coming. Can you get back to me? She's like, Robbie, I can't be that responsive. I've got an 8-day turnaround time. I'm like, fucking 8 days.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
so-
it's one of those things. Like I really, there's some fantastic advocates out there.
For sure. But what I was going to say was, no one knows your body like you do.
True.
And if you can string half a sentence together and put like a small paragraph about what actually occurred when you were doing it and how that makes you feel, an advocate ain't going to be able to translate that to you. But again, if you're not there and you need the assistance, I absolutely agree. Advocates have their place.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I needed one.
Yeah, no, understood. Like, but where we really focus on is that we're not an advocacy company.
No.
So the whole thing is multiple advocacy companies come to us or veterans come direct. I don't care how I see veterans. I don't care how they come in. We just want to help.
Yep.
But what I've found in my experience is there are advocates that are fantastic. They can do those things you talk about. They can translate what's saying, assist, the claims process is complex, right? They can put it all. They can put all those submissions in, put everything forward,
And a few words here or there can change things.
exactly. But especially the reports.
Yes. Yep.
So that's really where we focus on, because you're right. 1 or 2 words in the wrong paragraph, even in the wrong order, can be a difference between a condition being accepted or not.
Yeah.
We see a lot of patients, a lot of veterans coming through, either through the veteran space or coming direct. And as I said, it matters not to me. What matters is that we get them the best possible care they can, because this is, I guess, quite a controversial statement, but there's no other organisation in the world funds and looks after veterans like DVA does.
I agree.
Yep. Agreed.
They actually, it's astronomical what they actually do for our veterans. The difficulty with the whole process is qualifying for it and knowing what's out there. So what we try to do is assist them in qualifying for the healthcare that they need. And then once they qualify for it, we can assist them in obtaining the care that they need.
Care, yeah.
But yeah, I'm really passionate about it as well, because I do think DVA actually get a bad name as an organisation, but the support that they actually provide is second to. You look anywhere in the world, no other countries veterans get the care that Australian veterans get.
Care.
No one. Again, I reflect on my own thing. I was able to be duly compensated for the injuries that I claimed, and that's all fine. The money's sitting in my bank account. But you know what I'm really focused on now is the ongoing care. The appointments with the chiro, the appointments with the osteopath, the appointments with X, Y, and Z, because you can have all the fucking money in the world sitting in your bank account. If you're in pain, if you can't operate, if you're not taking those steps to keep yourself active, fit, and healthy and whatever else, it's irrelevant. So, you know, that's, I would say a lot of veterans get most frustrated because they're probably focused on the first bit and we'll go back to the first 5 minutes of the podcast. When you don't have financial pain in your life, what else do you focus on? So no worries, I've got that sorted. But really, I want to make sure that people are just making sure that they are actively implementing the care program. Would you agree?
Completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, there's obviously some systemic issues there about, you know, funding for healthcare providers, the way DVA do that tied to Medicare and the Medicare requirement. There are a lot of restrictions there that I think need to overcome to ensure veterans can access allied healthcare that they need and chronic disease management like they need.
Yeah.
I just hope that, you know, the reforms that are coming into Medicare and the $7.5 billion that have been promised by the incoming federal government will go away to assist that. And the Royal Commission, right? Hopefully there's some good outcomes from the Royal Commission that will transfer across to the chronic management of the management of chronic disease for veterans.
Yeah, so good, mate. Just quickly before we finish off, you were saying before you've got a number of offices scattered around. You're like, oh, nice office. I'm like, yeah, it's really cool. We've got our office. And you're like, about 2 sheds.
Yeah, we've got. Well, I'm pretty fortunate in that you know, a lot of our admin staff are located. We've got a pretty good admin team, a big admin team, and once again, I'm really lucky because the veterans are led by a veteran.
So good.
But we've also, you know, we've got a lot of family members in and amongst our team who are currently serving or previously served.
Awesome.
But also the model that we've got is remote doctors located all around Australia, and purely for that. So they've got clinics that if we need to do face-to-face assessments anywhere in Australia, we've got doctors available that can do that.
They've got their own space in some clinic where you can go and, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Do you do any online stuff?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of the claims that we can do are actually amenable to doing them via video health.
Yeah.
And I guess that was a good thing that came out of COVID. You know, COVID was that realisation that, you know what, we're doing a lot of stuff face-to-face that maybe we don't want to be doing.
So good.
Or we don't need to be doing.
People say to us, like, why don't you have an office in Townsville and Darwin? And I'm like, first and foremost, imagine me tapping someone on the shoulder here going, hey, mate, I told you when you get out of the military there's no posting orders anymore. There's an Axon posting order that says you're going to go and open the office in Darwin. Like,
discharge.
But you know what? Our office is on our phone.
Yeah, true.
We've got an office here. We've got atmosphere. We've got vibe. We've got culture. We pull the piss out of each other. We can do things like this. But we are not expanding offices anywhere soon. Slightly different business model to yours.
Yeah.
But certainly, I love it that you've got, you know, people scattered around Australia that can do that first little bit. But you've actually got other offices. Is it just scattered around Southeast Queensland? Did I hear you say?
Yeah, pretty much.
Talk to us about that.
That's where our admin staff really are based.
Right.
And yeah, it's one. I agree with you too. You know, really, we need to have the team together. I think you need that face-to-face camaraderie,
of course,
to build a good team. So yeah, I mean, we go where we need to go really in Southeast Queensland at the moment to attract that talent.
Yeah. So if there is people that are posted to Enoggera or Amberley now, as opposed to wanting to do, and they want to do face-to-face stuff, totally fine. That's why we love hosting our clients down here whenever they want to drive down the highway. What suburbs are your offices in, and are there doctors as well as admin staff in those offices?
So doctors are scattered in different clinics all around Australia.
Right.
So ideally, what we try and do.
Yeah, talk us through the process. If someone reaches out to you,
so
what
someone
actually
reaches
happens?
out to us, what happens is the admin team will get in contact with them, see where they're at in the journey. Actually, I should back this up. The referrals either come in via advocates.
Yep.
Or they come in direct themselves.
Sure.
Right? So the easiest one is, I guess, somebody who comes in from an advocate. So if we see veterans that are already tied in with advocates, we're very fortunate in that a lot of advocates have just a relationship with us, a non-financial arrangement at all. And so we've got veterans, and we need them to see doctors that understand this process. So they come in and see us. So they'll refer the veteran in with all the reports that they need completed, and then we have a team. An admin booking team that'll discuss, run through, gather any just basic, simple information they can get off them, and then they'll book them in with our clinical team. We initially do a screening call, a video conference call with them for about an hour and a half.
Nice.
Is the first, just effectively an medical information gathering process, and then what will happen is we'll then prepare any supplementary information they need in support of their reports. Normally, 90% of the time, it's musculoskeletal conditions, right? So they need some sort of MRI scan, something like that. So we organise that. They get those scans done, and then they come back and with those results, and then see the doctors. A lot of these, as I said, we can do the doctor's appointments also via video health, but if we need to, we can do them face to face. But predominantly, it's via video. We'll do the consultation with them. We'll run them through what their diagnosis actually is, what the MRI is showing. If there's anything that we need to urgently arrange for them as a duty of care, we'll arrange that and organise that for them. And then we'll talk them through their claim and submit that to the department.
Yeah, nice, bloody awesome. How do people reach out to you, mate? How do people find Front Foot Health? What's the best way?
So we've got a website. The website's www.frontfoothealth.com.au.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to get us.
Yeah.
And then, our full contact details are there. Or if you want to, you can just get on there, contact us and upload your report information and then send that through, and then the girls will be in contact from the office.
No worries. And Daniel, I'm sure you'll be able to put all that stuff on the bottom of the thing here. Tim, just quickly, I know you and I were talking about before, you lived your life in a bit of the shadows. Certainly my last decade was absolutely in the shadows, formally and informally. Isn't it a bit weird now sort of putting yourself out there with your work shirt on, sort of banging the drum as far as, people to come and use your services? But what you and I both believe in is, or you and I both said, is that if you believe that what you're doing is helping people along the way, then you just got to put yourself out there and do the voiceovers. And, you said this is your first podcast, and I love the way you were vulnerable here, as tough as that would have been. It shows a real, just a real soulful and, chemical side to someone who, when you're dealing with a real person that cares about you and cares about your outcome, then life's, so cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is, puts a smile on your face. Like I really love working with veterans. I really love helping people. And this is the way that I feel I can make the most difference on veterans' lives.
Yeah.
So that it's what drives me. It's what I'm passionate about. And I can see by what you've created here, and I can see even just talking to you both and looking at your faces that you believe the same.
Yeah.
It's what drives you. You can tell. And you know what? It's actually infectious.
Yeah, nice.
You come and see other people that are caring for veterans.
Yep.
And it's almost like a tribe, It's looking after your own. It's looking after your mates, and I love it.
We have a bit of a joke just quickly before I come to you, Ryan. I'm like, do you know, John and Sally, we've got this 4-letter C word that we fly around the office all the time. They're like, oh, that sounds a bit funny. I'm like, it's care, not the one you were thinking of. When you actually care about people. Rhino, final thoughts?
Mate, I've just really enjoyed the story arc, and I come back to that very first paragraph of you being the kid in the Hunter Valley, looking up the sky, wanting to be a Royal Flying Doctor and fly a jet. And holy moly, have you achieved both of those. It's a phenomenal journey that you've been on.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I feel like actually there is probably one more chapter. And it really has just come out talking to you both today, and that is I really haven't done the flying doctor thing yet.
Yeah.
So I would like actually to get out to remote communities and, when we've done the work that needs to be done to get veterans the care that they need to qualify for DVA-funded healthcare. Once that job is done, I really would love to do an RFDS role going out to remote areas, particularly where veterans are vulnerable, and provide that care to them. So I think I've just talking to you both today as I've worked out the next chapter and where I want to go with this.
It's got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
So
That's
good. Dr. Tim Nelson, thanks so much for joining us on Axons Unleashed. I told you, ladies and gents, this was going to be a cracker. So, Daniel, thanks for organising this. Shout out to you, Caitlin, for finding Dr. Tim online. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Robbie. It's been
Have
a pleasure,
great day.
mate.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ryan. I've really enjoyed it.
Hope you
mate.
enjoyed
Thanks
that
for your
one,
time,
ladies
guys.
and gents. See you again soon. Thank you.